So I started to look towards God, and I was looking for a new creation within life, how to end up having me passionate about myself. And actually, there was so much to the text, not only within the Christian text, but I started to look out at it. As I started to now, I'm looking into archaeology, cultural anthropology, running it through the different sciences and looking into the history of it. What was canonical text? What was non-canonical? If I wanted to be able to look into it and say, all right, well, I want to have a new understanding of where we came from. And I want to be able to look into it. Yeah, I believe it was Chekin Orelik Velomitis was the name that they ended up using for tar. But then I got into the Anunnaki. I got into creation from Elohim in the heavenly beings. Yahweh, actually being with the name of God. And I started to look at all of these. I looked at the different ideas that they had within the I Ching, within China. I looked at the ideas that they ended up having through Confucianism, even at the Tao. The Tao Way actually meant the way. It was a universal idea. So what they ended up using with the Rec was a way that they ended up having it in to where they actually ended up having a parallel and a balance. That was the idea of Zoroastrianism that they ended up having. And how you end up seeing how it was a balance between the light and the dark, and there was also an in-between balance. They ended up using this as a separate parallel. You end up seeing it within the movies in Hollywood. It's the same ideas that they have within Star Wars and how they build that. And you can check it all you want to. And you end up finding that it edifies itself and it builds up stronger and stronger every time, that the facts support themselves. In fact, as I went further into it, what I was able to see was that actually in Enoch, when the angels come, and he mentions with Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel, actually there's also Phanuel within it as well. I was looking into the idea of Phanuel, and that's another topic in all of itself, within the place where Yaakov ended up wrestling with the angel to be able to receive the blessings of the earth. And so he wrestled with the angel, and then afterwards ended up receiving the glory where he became Israel instead of Yaakov. He became the head instead of the heel, and he was brought forth within that. When you end up seeing that, it changes the dynamics of the situation, and it kind of gets you going a little bit. As I was looking into Enoch, what I ended up seeing was that they mentioned how the heavens were split, and they ended up changing it, so that they had both the forces of light, the forces of darkness, and then the gray in between. But it was actually that the gray forces were a portion of that darkness, and so it was set forth with the 2/3 and the other third within heaven. The actual way that you end up mirroring this, and even the percentage, come forth from the numbers from the 666, or the Vav. But also, there was even within that in changing it, was to be able to look back and see that that was a portion. Not even looking at that, but being able to realize that it's so much more. And that was the division that was within heaven when they made the Baika that it mentions that was split forth, where the angels ended up separating and then coming back and being able to have that within heaven, although they were once all united. And so it was the same parallel that you end up having within heaven as you start to look and be able to realize that, well, used to there was this unity, and so that the light and the darkness were once in the same. Same way with Adam before they had the understanding of the consciousness of sin. Then it actually ended up separating between the light and darkness. There's a picture that shows the way, but it's with a Hebrew version of it. What they end up using is a hay. They use one black hay and one white hay, but it showed the contrast of it. And you can actually see this also in the cube. You look at it with a dynamic, with the flower of life. You end up seeing within the yin and the yang. All these show a different parallel and a balance within the world, so that you can build forth and go into that. You end up having this. So when I look at Chekin Orelik Velomitis and the ideas that they ended up having within even that, it wasn't just saying them, because you look at resurrection stories that came from Egypt and they use it as a way that they showed forth for Christianity. But Moshe Rabbanu, Jesus Christ, and Abraham all came from Egypt. You can look into and find the different ways that they set forth within the history and the culture. And then not only that, but also the symbolism. So that if I see the cross and look at the different parallels from Enoch and realize that there's portions being limited energy within Christ, and also the blessing of God, and it was a foreshadowing of what was to come. And so this was how you end up having that blessing that comes forth from God. You end up building that up and having a new way to look at God so that you can see that. I'll see it.